The notification blinked on her phone screen like a heart about to stop. Marina Olson gripped the device with both hands, rereading for the fifth time the words she had already memorized. Final warning. Eviction in 72 hours. Her fingers trembled. Not from cold, despite the tiny apartment's half-open window in West London letting in the chilly June wind. They trembled from an explosive mix of fear and rage she no longer knew how to contain. 3 months of overdue rent. 3 months of sending resumes into the void. 3 months of hearing that her portfolio was excellent, that her work as a graphic designer was promising, that she had a lot of talent. But talent didn't pay bills. Talent didn't fill the fridge. And talent, definitely, didn't stop an impatient landlord from putting her belongings on the pavement. Marina tossed her phone onto the worn sofa and walked to the small table where her laptop was still open. The screen showed yet another rejected project. 20 hours of work for a position that went to someone with more experience, more contacts, more luck. She closed the computer harder than she intended and sat on the floor, leaning her back against the cold wall. How had she ended up here? 2 years ago, she was graduating with honors from university, surrounded by professors who guaranteed she would go far. She had even received an internship offer from a renowned agency. But life has a cruel way of changing direction when we least expect it. The agency went bankrupt 6 months later. Her mother, who lived in rural Yorkshire, fell ill, and Marina had to use all her savings to help with the treatment. When she finally managed to stabilize again, the market was different, more competitive, more ruthless. The phone rang, pulling her from her gloomy thoughts. Marina looked at the screen and frowned. Camilla Montgomery. They hadn't spoken in almost a year. Camilla had been her university colleague, but from a completely different reality. While Marina shared an apartment with 3 people and worked 2 jobs to pay for her studies, Camilla arrived in an imported car, designer bag slung over her shoulder, living a life that seemed straight out of a magazine. Marina hesitated before answering. Part of her wanted to ignore it. Another part, the desperate part that didn't know where the rent money would come from, decided to give it a chance. Hello? Marina! Darling, it's been ages. Camilla's voice was melodious, full of rehearsed enthusiasm. How are you? I was thinking about you the other day and realized it's been so long since we talked. I'm surviving. Marina didn't have the energy to pretend. There was a pause on the other end. I can tell from your tone that things are tough. Actually, that's entirely related to why I'm calling. Marina felt a tightening in her chest. Camilla wasn't the type to call without wanting something in return. I'm listening. Look, I'll be direct because I know you don't like beating around the bush. I'm developing a project on human behavior and I need your help. It's something quick, but I'd pay well. Very well, actually. Marina stood up, her heart racing. What kind of project? A social experiment. Nothing complicated, I promise. Basically, I want to test the superficiality in modern relationships. I need you to go on a blind date and observe how the person reacts to your appearance. What do you mean? Camilla let out a light laugh. I want you to go looking disheveled. No makeup, simple clothes, really simple. I want to see if the guy will treat you differently, if he'll be polite, or if he'll show his true superficial character. It's for a documentary I'm producing about judgment and appearances. Marina sat down again, processing the information. And you want to pay me for this? 5,000 pounds. The air left Marina's lungs. 5,000 pounds. It was more than enough for the overdue rent and would still leave money for food, bills, a moment to breathe. A whole month without despair. Why me? Marina asked, suspicious. Because you're beautiful, Marina. Even without styling, you have a natural beauty. I want to see if he can see that beyond the old clothes. Besides, you're intelligent. You know how to talk. I need someone who can maintain a real conversation, not just a model who will stay silent. The experiment only works if there's genuine interaction. Genuine? The word echoed in Marina's mind with a bitter taste. There was nothing genuine about pretending to be someone she wasn't for money. But there was something even less genuine about being evicted, about going hungry, about watching all her dreams crumble because the world didn't care about effort. I need to think, Marina, I understand, but I need an answer by tomorrow morning. The date is the day after tomorrow night. If you agree, I'll transfer half the amount today so you can sort out your urgencies. You'll receive the other half after the date. Marina closed her eyes. Camilla knew exactly where to press. She always had. Is there anything else I need to know? Nothing much. You go to the restaurant, chat with the guy for an hour or two, observe his reactions. I'll have a discreet team filming from a distance, but nothing that will expose you. Then, you tell me how it went, and that's it. Simple as that. Simple. Nothing in Marina's life had been simple for a long time. Okay, I accept. Seriously? Oh, Marina, you won't regret it. I'll send you all the details by message. The restaurant, the time, the name you should give at reception. Oh, and his name is Raphael Evans. He thinks it's a normal date, so be natural. Just don't dress up, okay? The simpler, the better. After Camilla hung up, Marina stood still, looking at her phone. A strange sensation came over her, something between relief and nausea. She had crossed a line. She knew it. She was about to deceive a complete stranger, to use her image to prove a point that wasn't even hers. But when the bank transfer notification arrived, showing £2,500 deposited into her account, Marina allowed herself a long sigh. At least that night, she would sleep knowing she would have a roof over her head the next day. On Friday morning, Marina woke up to Camilla's message already waiting on the screen. Panorama Restaurant, 8 p.m. Table reserved under Marina Olsen. Dress carefully to look disheveled, but don't overdo it. It has to look natural. Good luck. Marina spent the day in a strange state of anxiety. She paid the overdue rent in the morning, feeling a huge weight lift from her shoulders. She bought real food at the supermarket, filling her fridge for the first time in weeks. But as she did all this, an insistent voice in her head asked if the price she was paying was worth it. When night fell, she looked at her closet with a bizarre feeling. Normally, people dressed up for dates. She needed to do the opposite. She chose a faded gray hoodie she wore to sleep, old sweatpants with a small tear at the knee, and worn sneakers. She tied her hair in a messy bun, washed her face, and looked at herself in the mirror. The woman staring back at her looked tired, dull, common. Exactly what Camilla wanted. Marina felt a pang of humiliation. Not because of the clothes themselves, but because of what they represented. She was being paid to look inferior, to serve as a contrast in a cruel test of someone else's character. The Uber she ordered stopped in front of the Panorama Restaurant exactly at 8 o'clock. The establishment was on the top floor of a commercial building on Regent Street, and the name was no coincidence. The glass windows offered a privileged view of the illuminated city, a spectacle of lights that Marina would have found beautiful under other circumstances. She got out of the car and immediately felt the stares. The doorman observed her from head to toe with an expression that mixed confusion and disapproval. Two elegant women entering the building whispered something Marina preferred not to hear. Each step towards the elevator felt heavier. When the doors opened on the top floor, Marina was greeted by a sophisticated hall with crystal chandeliers and tables covered with impeccable white tablecloths. The discreet sound of live piano filled the room. She was, without a doubt, the most poorly dressed person in the entire restaurant. "Good evening. May I help you?" the receptionist asked with professional politeness, but his eyes showed surprise. "I have a reservation. Marina Olsen." He checked the system, his eyebrows raising slightly. "Ah, yes. You're at table 17 by the window. Mr. Evans has already arrived." Marina followed the receptionist, feeling the weight of every gaze that crossed her path. And then she saw him. Raphael Evans was sitting with his back to her, looking out at the city through the window. Even from a distance, she could see that he was wearing a well-cut dark blazer, the kind of clothing that screamed quality. When the receptionist approached and he turned, Marina felt her heart skip a beat. He was handsome, not in an obvious or exaggerated way, but he had that kind of beauty that comes from personal care, confidence, and good genes. Dark hair combed back, attentive brown eyes, a well-trimmed beard that gave a mature, air to his face. He must have been around 35. And when his eyes met Marina's, she expected to see what she always saw in these places: disappointment, perhaps disdain disguised as politeness. At best, indifference. But what she saw was something completely different. Raphael stood up immediately, a genuine smile lighting his face. "Marina, nice to meet you. I'm Raphael." He extended his hand, and when she accepted, the grip was firm, warm. "It's good that you came. I was looking forward to meeting you." And for some reason, Marina couldn't understand. She believed him. Marina sat in the chair Raphael gently pulled out for her, still processing the warm welcome. He returned to his seat and picked up the menu, offering it to her with a natural gesture, as if there was nothing wrong with the situation, as if she weren't wearing a faded hoodie in one of London's most expensive restaurants. "Have you been here before?" Raphael asked, his eyes meeting hers with genuine interest. "No, first time." Marina held the menu without really looking at it. Her fingers touched the thick, expensive paper, and she realized she had no idea how much those dishes with French names cost. "Then you're in luck. The food here is exceptional. I recommend the porcini mushroom risotto, but the passion fruit fish is also incredible. And if you like pasta, the Sicilian lemon tagliatelle is out of this world." Marina looked at him, expecting to find some sign of irony, some hint that he was mocking her. But Raphael seemed completely at ease, flipping through his own menu as if they were in a neighborhood bakery. "You seem to know the menu well?" she ventured, trying to sound natural. "Oh, I come here quite often. Business meetings, those boring things." He smiled, and there was something tired in that smile. "But I confess it's different to be here for a lighter reason. More real." The word echoed in Marina's mind. Real. If only he knew how unreal this situation was. The waiter approached, and Raphael ordered an appetizer to share and suggested a wine. Marina just nodded, unable to contribute with choices that cost more than she earned in a week of freelance work when she managed to get work. "So, Marina." Raphael rested his elbows on the table, leaning slightly forward. "Tell me about yourself. Camilla said you were university friends, but she didn't give me many details. I guess she wanted to preserve the mystery." Marina felt her stomach churn at the mention of Camilla's name. So that's how it had been arranged. Camilla had introduced Raphael to her as if doing her a favor, connecting two acquaintances. He had no idea he was a guinea pig in an experiment. "Yes, we studied design together." Marina decided to stick as close to the truth as possible. "Camilla was always very outgoing. She has a knack for connecting people. She mentioned that. Said you were brilliant, one of the best designers in the class, that you had a unique eye for things." Marina blinked, surprised. Camilla had said that? Or was it part of the setup, a way to make the date more credible? "I worked very hard." She looked away towards the window, watching the city lights blink like earthly stars. "But talent and effort aren't always enough in the real world." There was a silence, and when Marina looked back at Raphael, she found an expression of deep understanding on his face. "I perfectly understand what you mean," he sighed. "People look at me and see success. They see an entrepreneur who built a chain of boutique hotels, who frequents restaurants like this, who wears expensive clothes. But no one sees the sleepless nights, the impossible decisions, the loneliness of being at the top with no one who truly understands you." Marina remained silent, touched by the raw honesty of those words. It wasn't what she expected. She had imagined she would find a superficial man, someone who would judge her appearance and confirm Camilla's thesis. Instead, she was facing someone who seemed as lost as she was, just in a different setting. "Sorry." Raphael ran a hand through his hair, looking genuinely embarrassed. "I talked too much. It's just that lately I've been feeling tired of empty conversations, of dinners where everyone wears masks, where no one really says what they think or feel." "And why do you think I would be different?" Marina asked, and there was a pang of guilt in her voice. After all, she was there wearing the biggest mask of all. "I don't know." Raphael smiled, and this time the smile reached his eyes. Intuition, perhaps, or hope. When Camilla told me about you, she said you were authentic, that you had no patience for social games. I found that refreshing. The appetizer arrived, and for a few minutes they focused on the food. Marina was ravenous. She hadn't eaten properly all day due to anxiety, but she forced herself to eat slowly, politely. Each bite was delicious, seasoned with a sauce she would never be able to reproduce. "Can I ask you a question?" Raphael wiped his mouth with his napkin, observing her with curiosity. "Of course." "Why did you come dressed like this?" Marina almost choked. Her eyes widened, and she felt her face flush. So he had noticed. Of course he had noticed. How could he not? She searched for words, for an explanation that wasn't a complete lie. "I thought it wouldn't matter." Raphael tilted his head thoughtfully. "It doesn't matter. But I'm curious about the choice. Was it a test?" Marina's heart pounded. He knew. How could he know? "A test?" she repeated, buying time. "To see if I'm superficial," Raphael said simply, without accusation in his voice. "To see if I care more about the packaging than the content. It's a clever test, actually. Many people would fail." Marina didn't know what to say. He had come so close to the truth that she felt naked, exposed. But there was something in the way he spoke, without judgment, almost with admiration, that completely disarmed her. "And if it was?" she challenged, lifting her chin. "What if I came like this on purpose to see your reaction?" Raphael leaned back in his chair, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Then I would say you're even more interesting than I imagined, and that I'm very grateful to have passed the test." The main course arrived, and the conversation flowed into lighter territories. Raphael spoke about how he started in the hotel business, buying a small bankrupt hotel in the Lake District and transforming it into a sought-after retreat for artists and writers seeking inspiration in the mountains. Marina talked about her design projects, about the joy of creating something from scratch, of seeing an idea materialize in colors and shapes. She forgot she was being filmed, forgot there was money involved, forgot, for precious minutes, that this whole thing was a charade. "Do you know what I admire most about you?" Raphael asked when the waiter cleared their empty plates. "You're not trying to impress me. You're being yourself. You have no idea how rare that is." The guilt returned like a wave, stronger this time. Marina lowered her gaze to her hands, unable to bear the weight of those sincere brown eyes. "Raphael, you don't know me. You can't know if I'm being myself or not." "Perhaps," he agreed, "but I can feel it. And my instinct rarely deceives me." He paused. "Do you want to get out of here?" Marina looked up, surprised. "What do you mean?" "Out of this restaurant. Out of this artificial environment." Raphael gestured around. "Let's walk. Or we can go to my apartment, put on some music, talk for real. No waiters, no curious glances, just the two of us." Every alarm in Marina's mind went off. Go to his apartment? Alone? She barely knew him. But while logic screamed danger, something deeper whispered that she could trust him, that Raphael was not a threat, but perhaps the most honest person she had met in a long time. "Why would you trust me enough to take me to your apartment?" Marina asked. "For the same reason you're considering going." Raphael replied softly. "Because sometimes we need to take risks. Because real connections don't happen in safe, predictable places. They happen when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable." Marina thought of the empty apartment waiting for her, the cold walls, the loneliness that had been her only companion in recent weeks. She thought of the money she would still receive from Camilla at the end of that night. She thought of how long it had been since someone looked at her the way Raphael looked, as if she mattered, as if she was seen. "All right," she heard her own voice say. "Let's go." Raphael paid the bill, and they left the restaurant under the same curious glances as when they entered. But this time, Marina didn't care. As they walked to his car, a dark, elegant sedan parked in the building's garage. She allowed herself to imagine, just for a moment, that this was real. Raphael's apartment was in a classic building in Kensington, the kind of construction that breathed history and old money. The elevator was lined with wood and mirrors, and Marina watched her multiplied reflections, she and Raphael side by side, two worlds that shouldn't meet, but there they were, ascending together towards the unknown. When the apartment door opened, Marina was greeted by a space that was both luxurious and welcoming. There was art on the walls, not just generic decoration, but pieces that had clearly been chosen with care. A bookshelf filled with books occupied an entire wall. Large windows offered a view of Hyde Park, the illuminated trees creating a green oasis amidst the concrete. "Make yourself at home," Raphael said, heading to the open-plan kitchen. "Want something to drink? Wine? Water? Coffee?" "Water is fine." Marina walked to the bookshelf, her fingers gliding over the spines of the books. There were English classics, foreign novels, philosophy, and business books. "Have you read all these?" "Most of them." Raphael returned with 2 glasses of water, handing one to her. "Reading is my escape. When the business world gets too noisy, I take refuge in the pages." They sat on the sofa, a respectful distance between them, but Marina could feel the warmth emanating from Raphael, the tension in the air that wasn't uncomfortable, but charged with possibility. "Can I confess something?" Raphael turned to her, and there was vulnerability in his eyes. "I was dreading tonight." "You? Why?" "Because it's been a long time since I've had a real date. Not a business dinner disguised as a date. Not a social networking attempt. Something real." He laughed, but it was a humorless sound. "My last girlfriend broke up with me because she said I was married to my work. And she was right. I didn't know how to connect with another person anymore." Marina felt her chest tighten. "And tonight was different?" "Completely." Raphael held the glass between his hands, looking at the water as if searching for answers in it. "Tonight, I remembered how good it is to talk to someone who doesn't want anything from me other than conversation. How liberating it is not to have to perform." The words cut Marina like a knife. He was wrong. She wanted something from him. She didn't want to, but she had taken it. Money. She had sold that moment of his authenticity for £2,500. And when it was all over, she would receive another 2,500. "Raphael," her voice came out hoarse, "you shouldn't trust me like this. You don't know me." He placed the glass on the coffee table and turned completely. To her, his knees almost touching hers. "Then let me get to know you. For real. Without rushing. Without pressure. Just tell me who Marina Olsen is when no one is looking." And perhaps it was the wine from dinner, or the emotional exhaustion of the past few months, or the hunger for human connection she had denied herself for so long. But Marina began to speak. She told him about her sick mother, about the money that ran out, about the dreams that were postponed and then forgotten. She told him about the loneliness of a big city where you can be surrounded by millions of people and still feel completely alone. She told him about the despair of the eviction notice, about the fear of not being enough, of never being able to get out of that hole. She didn't tell him about Camilla. She didn't tell him about the experiment. But everything else, all the pain and frustration she carried, poured out like water from a broken dam. And Raphael listened. He didn't try to fix it. He didn't offer empty solutions. He just listened, and when she finally stopped talking, when the tears, she didn't know. She was shedding dried on her face. He reached out and touched her face with a delicacy that broke her heart. "You're incredible," he whispered, "and much stronger than you imagine." Marina didn't know who moved first. Perhaps it was her. Perhaps him. Perhaps both at the same time, drawn by a force neither of them could name. But suddenly their lips met, and the kiss was soft, questioning, full of a tenderness Marina didn't know she could still feel. And then the guilt hit her like a punch to the stomach. Marina pulled away abruptly, getting up from the sofa as if she had received a shock. Her heart hammered in her chest, a chaotic mixture of desire and horror. What was she doing? How had she let things go so far? Marina? Raphael stood up too, confusion etched on his face. Did I do something wrong? No. The word came out too fast, too desperate. You didn't do anything wrong, it's me. I need to go. She frantically searched for her purse, finding it tossed on the armchair where she had dropped it upon entering. Her fingers trembled as she picked up the straps. Wait, please. Raphael took a step towards her, but stopped when he saw the panic on her face. At least tell me what happened. We were doing so well and suddenly... I can't. Marina shook her head, feeling the tears threaten to return. I can't explain now. I need to leave. She ran towards the door, but Raphael was faster, positioning himself between her and the exit. Not in a threatening way, but with his hands raised in a gesture of peace. It's all right. You can go. But at least let me call a car for you. It's late. It's not safe. For you to be out there alone. His kindness only made everything worse. Marina wanted to scream, wanted to tell the truth, wanted to ask forgiveness for turning something so genuine into a dirty transaction. But the words wouldn't come. Only tears. Please move, she whispered. Raphael stepped back, and Marina rushed through the door without looking back. She ran down the corridor, called the elevator, and when the doors closed, she finally allowed herself to collapse. She slid down the mirror until she sat on the cold floor, sobbing in a small space that seemed a perfect metaphor for her life. She didn't even notice when the elevator reached the ground floor. The doorman looked at her with concern, asked if she was okay, but Marina just mumbled something unintelligible and walked out into the street. The cold night air hit her face like a slap, and she started walking aimlessly, just wanting distance from that building, from that night, from that version of herself who had kissed a man under false pretenses. Her phone vibrated. It was Camilla. So, how was it? Did you manage to record everything? Send photos. Marina looked at the message with repulsion. Record? Photos? She had completely forgotten about the discreet camera Camilla had mentioned. Had she really been filmed? Had that intimate moment, that vulnerable conversation been captured to be used as proof that men were superficial? But Raphael hadn't been superficial. He had been anything but. With trembling fingers, Marina typed a reply. We need to talk. In person. The reply came immediately. Tomorrow, we can have lunch at the club. I'm eager to hear everything. Marina turned off her phone and kept walking. She passed Hyde Park, now silent and dark, only the security lights illuminating the empty paths. She passed busy avenues where London's nightlife pulsed indifferent to her suffering. She passed corners she didn't recognize, neighborhoods she had never visited. When she finally stopped, she was in front of a small church, hidden among commercial buildings. She wasn't religious. She didn't attend mass or pray before bed. But at that moment, she needed somewhere that represented something pure, something untainted by money and lies. She sat on the entrance steps and hugged her knees, letting reality finally penetrate her defenses. She had sold her integrity. Worse, she had sold the trust of a good man. Raphael had opened. His heart shared his insecurities, believed she was someone authentic. And what had she done? Lied. Used him. Turned his vulnerability into a commodity. 2,500 pounds, she murmured to the night. I sold my dignity for 2,500 pounds. A woman passing on the pavement looked at her with concern, but Marina didn't care. She let the tears fall freely, let the pain settle completely in her chest, because perhaps this was what she deserved. Perhaps the pain was the fair price for crossing a line she should never have crossed. Her phone vibrated again. This time, it was an unknown number. Marina almost ignored it, but something made her answer. Marina? Thank goodness. It was Raphael, and his voice was filled with concern. I got your number from Camilla. Are you okay? Where are you? How did you get her number? Marina asked, confused. She gave it to me when she arranged the date, said it was for emergencies. Raphael took a deep breath. And this looks like an emergency. You ran out of here almost an hour ago. I'm worried. Marina closed her eyes. Of course. Camilla had given her number to Raphael to make everything more convincing. Another layer of manipulation she hadn't anticipated. I'm fine. I just needed air. Marina, please. Let me come get you. Wherever you are, I'll come. We don't have to talk about what happened if you don't want to. I just want to make sure you're safe. His kindness was a knife twisting in her chest. Why do you care? You barely know me. Because in that conversation, in those hours we spent together, I felt like I knew you more than I know people I've seen for years. And because something hurt you, and I can't bear the thought of you out there alone, suffering. Marina bit her lip to stifle a sob. You're too good a man, Raphael, and I don't deserve your concern. Let me be the judge of that, he said softly. Please, tell me where you are. Marina looked around, searching for a street sign. I'm on Baker Street, in front of a church, St. Joseph's Church. Stay there. I'm coming. 20 minutes later, Raphael's car stopped in front of the church. He got out, still wearing his dinner blazer, but with his tie loose and an expression of weariness that hadn't been there before. When his eyes met Marina sitting on the steps, he practically ran towards her. You're freezing. He took off his blazer and placed it over her shoulders before Marina could protest. The fabric was warm, carrying the scent of his cologne, a woody fragrance that was both sophisticated and comforting. Raphael sat beside her on the steps, not too close as to invade her space, but close enough for her to feel his solid, real presence. Do you want to talk about what happened? He asked after a long silence. Marina pulled the blazer tighter around her body. I don't even know where to begin. From the beginning, perhaps, or the middle, or the end. It doesn't matter, as long as you feel comfortable. Marina took a deep breath. It was now. She could continue lying, could invent some excuse for her abrupt escape, or she could do the right thing for the first time that entire night. Raphael, that date, it wasn't what you think. He remained quiet, waiting. Camilla paid me to be there. She said it was a social experiment about superficiality. She asked me to go looking disheveled without styling to see how you would react, to prove that men like you only care about appearance. Marina felt Raphael stiffen beside her, but she forced herself to continue. I was desperate. I was going to be evicted. I had no money for food. When she offered 5,000 pounds, I accepted. I thought it would be easy. I thought you'd be a superficial jerk and I wouldn't mind deceiving you. But you were... Her voice faltered. You were kind, real, vulnerable, and I realized I was doing something horrible. The silence that followed was deafening. Marina didn't dare look at. Raphael didn't want to see the disappointment that would surely be etched on his face. She waited for shouts, for accusations, for a well-deserved fit of anger, but what came was different. Thank you, Raphael said, his voice low but firm. For telling me the truth. Marina finally looked at him, incredulous. Thank you. I used you. I lied to you. I turned something that should have been genuine into a paid farce. Yes, you did. Raphael nodded, and there was pain in his eyes. And I won't pretend it doesn't hurt to know that. It hurts a lot. But you could have kept lying. You could have let me believe the illusion. Instead, you chose the truth, even knowing it would make you lose the rest of the money, Camilla's friendship, and potentially any chance with me. There was no chance, Marina whispered. There never was. How could there be? Raphael turned to face her completely. Marina, that conversation we had, those moments of connection, was that real for you? She closed her eyes, tears streaming again. Yes. Everything was real, and that's exactly why it hurts so much. Because what I felt, what I shared, was true, but it was born of a lie. Then we have something to work with, Raphael said, and there was a determination in his voice that surprised Marina. What? No, Raphael, you don't understand. I betrayed you before I even knew you. You were desperate and made a bad choice, he corrected. A choice you regretted and tried to correct as soon as you realized the gravity. That doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you human. Marina shook her head, unable to accept the forgiveness he offered. Camilla was right about one thing. I'm not good enough for someone like you. Camilla. Raphael practically spat the name. Let's talk about her for a minute. A woman who pays another to humiliate her in public, who sets up situations to prove petty points, who manipulates people like chess pieces. That's not a friend, Marina. That's a toxic person who wants to keep you down. The words resonated with Marina because she knew they were true. She had known deep down from the moment Camilla called. But hearing Raphael say them aloud gave them a weight she could no longer ignore. I need to give the money back, Marina said suddenly, the decision forming as she spoke. I can't keep it. Not after this. The money you need not to be evicted, Raphael asked gently. It doesn't matter. I'll figure something out. I'll get a job, any job. But I can't build my life on this. Raphael was silent for a moment, then took Marina's hand in his. She didn't resist, allowing herself to feel the warmth, the comfort of that touch. Can I make a proposal? He asked. Depends on the proposal. Give the money back to Camilla, cut ties with her, and give me a chance to get to know you for real. No experiments, no cameras, no lies. Just the two of us, discovering if what we felt today has a foundation to turn into something real. Marina looked into his eyes, searching for signs of naivety or pity, but what she found was hope, sincere and vulnerable. Why would you do that? Why would you risk it with me after what I did? Raphael smiled, and it was a sad but genuine smile. Because in all my adult life, I've never felt with anyone what I felt with you today. And because I believe people deserve second chances when they prove they want them. You proved that by telling me the truth. Marina wanted to believe. She wanted so badly to believe that it was possible. But fear paralyzed her. What if I disappoint you again? What if you don't disappoint? Raphael replied. What if we're good together? What if this horrible story is just the crooked beginning of something beautiful? For the first time in that long and painful night, Marina allowed herself to smile. Dawn found Marina awake, sitting on the bed in her small apartment, looking at her phone as if it might explode at any moment. She had arranged to meet Camilla at 10 in the morning at a cafe near the club Camilla was a member of. The previous night seemed both very real and completely surreal. Raphael had insisted on taking her home, waiting in the car until she was safely inside her apartment. Before they said goodbye, he held her face in his hands and said something that still echoed in her mind. You're stronger than you think, and you deserve good things. Never forget that. Marina took a long shower, trying to wash away the emotional exhaustion of the night before. She dressed carefully, choosing clean jeans and a simple but tidy blouse. This time, she wasn't dressing up as anyone. It was just herself. She arrived at the cafe 15 minutes early and ordered a black coffee, using the coins she found at the bottom of her purse. Her fingers drummed nervously on the table as she waited, mentally rehearsing what she would say, how to return the money, how to end a friendship that should never have existed. Camilla arrived promptly at 10, a spectacle of elegance in a beige tailored suit and expensive dark glasses. She waved at Marina with exaggerated enthusiasm and slid into the opposite seat, taking off her glasses and revealing impeccable makeup. Marie, you look awful. What happened? Was the date that bad? Camilla laughed, but there was a cruel spark of curiosity in her eyes. Marina took a deep breath. It wasn't bad. It was revealing. Oh, I knew it. He was superficial, wasn't he? Looked at you with disdain? Was he bothered? Camilla practically vibrated with excitement. Tell me everything. No, Camilla. He wasn't any of that. Marina kept her voice calm, controlled. He was kind, attentive, interesting. He treated me with respect from beginning to end, regardless of how I was dressed. Camilla's smile wavered. Well, he was probably pretending. Men always pretend on the first date. He wasn't pretending, and I know that because I told him the truth. The silence that followed was glacial. Camilla became completely motionless, her eyes fixed on Marina with an intensity that bordered on hostility. You did what? I told him about the experiment, about the money, about everything. Marina took an envelope from her bag and placed it on the table. And I came to give this back. Camilla looked at the envelope as if it were a snake. Have you lost your mind? Do you know how much this is going to cost me? I had already planned to use this material for a video to prove my point about male superficiality. Your point? Marina felt anger begin to simmer. Or your personal revenge against Raphael? Camilla's face paled. What are you talking about? I'm not stupid, Camilla. It took me a while to connect the dots, but now it makes sense. Raphael rejected you sometime, didn't he? You tried something with him and he didn't reciprocate. This was a way to humiliate him, to prove he was superficial, to justify the rejection. Camilla laughed, but it was a harsh, defensive sound. Gosh, do you really believe that? Are you romanticizing a man you barely know? I know enough to know he's a better person than you. Marina stood up, leaving the envelope on the table. I want nothing more to do with you, Camilla. I don't want your money. I don't want your false friendship. I just want you to stay away from me and away from Raphael. Camilla stood up too, her face contorted into an ugly expression. You think you're better than me? Look at you, Marina. Living in a fifth-rate apartment, no stable job, no future. I gave you an opportunity to earn easy money and you throw it in my face? Dirty money isn't easy money, Marina replied, and I'd rather live in a fifth-rate apartment with my dignity intact than in a mansion built on cruelty. Marina walked out of the cafe without looking back, her heart pounding but her head held high. For the first time in months, she felt clean. Poor, scared of the future, but clean. Her phone rang as soon. As she reached the street, it was Raphael. How was it? He asked, and she could hear the genuine concern in his voice. Liberating, Marina replied, and realized she was smiling. Difficult, but liberating. Are you free now? Completely. Then come have lunch with me, not in a fancy restaurant. I know a market in Borough Market. They have a cheese pastry that's the best thing in the world, and it costs £3. Marina laughed, a real laugh that came from deep in her chest. Market pastry? The big businessman Raphael Evans eats market pastry? Every week I can. It's my best-kept secret. There was a smile in his voice. I'll send you the address. Meet you there in half an hour? I'll be there. The market was exactly as Raphael had described. An organized chaos of colorful stalls, the smell of food mixed with flowers, people of all kinds circulating among fruits, vegetables, and crafts. Marina found Raphael in front of the pastry stall, dressed casually in jeans and a simple shirt, so different from the polished businessman from the restaurant that she almost didn't recognize him. You came. He smiled when he saw her. I promised. Didn't I? They ordered pastries and sugarcane juice, finding a place to sit on one of the makeshift benches scattered throughout the market. The first bite of the pastry made Marina groan with pleasure. The melted cheese, the crispy dough, everything was perfect in a simple and honest way. Was I right? Raphael asked, amused by her reaction. Better than any porcini mushroom risotto, Marina admitted. They ate in comfortable silence, observing the movement around them. Children running between the stalls, vendors shouting promotions, a street musician playing guitar. It was so different from the restaurant the night before. But somehow, it felt more real, more them. Can I ask you something? Marina wiped her hands on a paper napkin. Why did you forgive me so easily? It doesn't make sense. I deceived you. Raphael was quiet for a moment, watching an old lady choosing tomatoes at a nearby stall. My father owned a small hotel in Brighton. Nothing luxurious. It was a roadside hotel. He worked 16 hours a day to keep that place running. When I was a child, I asked him why he worked so hard. Do you know what he said? Marina shook her head. He said that every guest had a story. Some were fleeing something, others looking for something. His job wasn't to judge the stories, but to offer a safe place while they figured out the next chapter. He taught me that everyone deserves a clean room and a comfortable bed, no matter where they come from or what they've done. Raphael looked at Marina, and his eyes were moist. He passed away 3 years ago. He had just seen me open the 5th hotel in the chain. He said he was proud, but made me promise one thing, that I would never forget. That hotels aren't about luxury or status. They're about giving people refuge, a place where they can be vulnerable and be safe. Your father sounds like an incredible man, Marina said softly. He was. And when you told me the truth yesterday, vulnerable and terrified, I remembered what he would say. That you were seeking refuge from the storm that is your life now. And that my job, as a decent human being, wasn't to judge you for being lost. It was to offer you a safe place for you to find your way. Marina felt the tears streaming before she even realized she was crying. I don't deserve you. Raphael reached for her hand across the table. Maybe it's not about deserving. Maybe it's about choosing to be better together than we are apart. They spent the rest of the afternoon at the market, walking among the stalls, tasting fruits, laughing at silly things. Raphael bought flowers for Marina, a simple bouquet of sunflowers that cost 10 pounds and was worth more than any expensive gift she had ever received. As the sun began to set, painting the sky orange and pink, they sat on a park bench nearby. Marina rested her head on Raphael's shoulder, feeling the good fatigue of a day well spent. Raphael, she whispered. Yes? Thank you for giving me a chance I didn't ask for but desperately needed. He kissed the top of her head. Thank you for reminding me what's important, what's real. But reality, Marina would soon discover, had a cruel way of interrupting perfect moments. Her phone vibrated with a notification. It was a message from an unknown number, but the content made her blood run cold. Thought you'd like to know your date video turned out great. You can return the money, but you can't undo what was recorded. Get ready to be famous, Marina. You and Raphael. The message was from Camilla, and attached was a link to a YouTube video. With trembling hands, Marina clicked the link. The video began with an image of her entering the restaurant in her old hoodie, the camera capturing every disdainful look from the other customers. A female voice narration, clearly Camilla's, began. What happens when an ordinary woman meets an elite man? Let's test if love conquers superficiality or if money buys even compassion. The video had been posted less than an hour ago, and it already had 15,000 views. Marina felt the world spin around her. Raphael noticed her reaction and took the phone from her hand, watching the video with an expression that went from confusion to anger in a matter of seconds. She can't do that, he said, his voice tense. This is an invasion of privacy. We'll sue. But Marina knew the damage was already done. The video was on the internet. People were watching, commenting, judging. Her deepest humiliation was being turned into entertainment, and the worst part was that she had agreed. She had accepted the money, she had participated in the scheme. Now she would have to deal with the consequences. Raphael spent the night on the phone with lawyers. Marina stayed in her apartment, curled up on the sofa, unable to stop refreshing the video page. 30,000 views, 50,000, 100,000. The comments were a battlefield. How beautiful to see that there are still men who see beyond appearance. This is clearly staged. No one acts like this in real life. The girl is pretty even without styling. He's not a saint, he's just not blind. Who is this? Guy? Does anyone know his Instagram? Marina ran her fingers through her hair, feeling exposed in a way she never imagined possible. That moment that should have been private, that vulnerable conversation in Raphael's apartment, was being dissected by thousands of strangers on the internet. At 3 in the morning, when she finally managed to close her eyes, the video had surpassed 200,000 views. The morning brought more surprises. Raphael appeared at her apartment door with coffee and cheese pastries, but his face showed concern. "My lawyer's got an injunction," he said, coming in and placing the coffee on the small table. "The video will be taken down until this is resolved legally." Marina should have felt relief, but she knew it was too late. "People have already downloaded it, Raphael. They've already shared it elsewhere. Once something is on the internet..." "I know." He sat beside her. "But it's a start. Camilla will answer for this. Invasion of privacy, misuse of image. My lawyers are building a case that will make her think twice before manipulating someone again." Marina rested her head on his shoulder. "And us? How are we going to deal with this? With people? Knowing our story? Judging? Speculating?" Raphael was quiet for a long moment. Then he took out his phone and opened his Instagram. Marina had never seen his profile, but she wasn't surprised to see it had over 50,000 followers. Photos of hotels, landscapes, motivational quotes. "I'm going to post something," he said. "I'm going to tell our version of the story." "Raphael, no. That will just draw more attention." "Exactly." He looked at her with determination. "Marina, people are going to talk anyway. Do we prefer them to talk about the truth or Camilla's distorted version?" He was right. Marina watched as Raphael typed, deleted, rewrote. Finally, he showed her the text. "Many of you must have seen a video circulating in the last few hours. A video that invaded my privacy and that of someone very important to me. I will tell the truth, because truths matter." Marina agreed to participate in that meeting in a moment of financial desperation. She was honest with me about it. She chose the truth when a lie would have been easier. That doesn't make her bad. It makes her human and courageous. What the person who orchestrated this did, that is, indeed questionable. Using someone else's suffering as entertainment. Manipulating situations to prove petty points. Invasion of privacy for personal gain. So yes, we will sue and we will win. But more importantly, Marina and I have decided to move forward. Together. Because real connections are not born of perfection. They are born of honesty and forgiveness. Marina read and reread, tears blurring her vision. "You don't have to do this. You don't have to expose yourself like this for my sake." "I'm not doing it for you," Raphael said gently. "I'm doing it for us, and because it's the right thing to do." He posted it, and then they waited. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Within minutes, hundreds of comments began to appear. Most were supportive, people sharing their own stories of difficult decisions, of moments of desperation, of second chances. Some were critical, of course. There were always those who judged without knowing. But the general tide was of empathy. And then something unexpected happened. A design company, one of the largest in London, commented on the post. "Raphael, we know your work and admire your integrity. And Marina, if you are half the professional we imagine you to be, we would like to see your portfolio. We are hiring." Marina looked at the screen, unable to believe it. "Is this real?" Raphael smiled. "Very real. See? Sometimes honesty opens doors that lies never would." Throughout the day, Marina received 3 more invitations for interviews. People who had seen Raphael's post, looked into her work, and liked what they found. Suddenly, the professional desperation that had led her to accept Camilla's proposal began to dissipate. But the real turning point came 3 days later. Marina was at Raphael's apartment, having practically moved in over the last few days. They were cooking together, something that had become a comforting routine, when Raphael's phone rang. "It's my lawyer," he said, answering. Marina watched his expression change from neutral to surprise, and finally to satisfaction. "I understand. Yes. Yes, I accept the terms. Thank you." When he hung up, he was smiling. Camilla wants to settle. Public retraction, removal of all content related to the video, and considerable financial compensation. Marina sat heavily in a chair. She admitted she was wrong? More or less. She admitted she invaded our privacy and used images without consent. She didn't admit the true motivations, but frankly, I don't care. The important thing, is that this ends here. That night, Camilla posted a retraction on all her social media. She apologized for the invasion of privacy, acknowledged that she had crossed ethical boundaries, and announced that she was donating all the money she earned from the video to institutions that helped people in situations of financial vulnerability. Marina knew it was a public relations move. Camilla was saving her own image, but it didn't matter. The important thing was that the nightmare was coming to an end. A week later, Marina started her new job at the design company that had commented on Raphael's post. The salary was better than anything she had ever earned before. The team was welcoming, creative, exactly the kind of environment where she knew she could thrive. At the end of her first day, she returned to Raphael's apartment with a bottle of cheap wine and a smile she couldn't contain. "How was it?" Raphael greeted her with a tight hug. "Incredible. Scary. Perfect." Marina laughed. "My boss gave me a project to lead, a complete rebranding of a sustainable cosmetics brand. It's exactly the kind of work I've always wanted to do." "I knew you could do it." Raphael led her to the sofa. "By the way, I have something for you." He handed her an envelope. Marina opened it and found a lease agreement. For an apartment. A real apartment. Not a tiny room with a shared kitchen. "Raphael, what is this?" "It's a property I own. An apartment that was rented out, but the tenant left last month. I thought you might be interested." Marina looked at the values and her eyes widened. "The rent is well below market rate. Consider it a discount for a friend." Raphael smiled. "Or for someone who is more than a friend. Someone I'd like to see living in comfort and dignity." Marina felt tears well up. Not from sadness, but from pure gratitude. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes, and let me help you. Not because you need to, but because I want to. Because that's what people who care do. They help each other." Marina threw her arms around his neck. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." They kissed, and this time there was no guilt, no fear, just the certainty that, against all odds, they had found something real amidst the chaos. But as the weeks passed and Marina settled into her new life, a restlessness began to grow within her. Things were good. Too good. She had a job she loved, a comfortable apartment, a relationship that filled her in ways she didn't know were possible, and yet there was a voice whispering in her mind, telling her she didn't deserve it, that all of this was an illusion, that eventually Raphael would realize she wasn't good enough and would leave her. One night, after a particularly silent dinner, Raphael held her hand across the table. "What's going on?" he asked softly. "You're here, but you're not. I've felt you distant for days." Marina bit her lip. Part of her wanted to deny it, to pretend everything was fine. But she had promised herself she wouldn't lie to Raphael anymore. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Scared that all this will fall apart. That you'll wake up one day and realize you made a mistake. That I'm not worth all this effort." Raphael sighed and stood up, walking around the table to kneel beside her chair. He took both of Marina's hands in his. "Marina, look at me." He waited until her eyes met his. "I'm not here out of pity. I'm not here because I'm a nice guy who likes to help people in need. I'm here because when I look at you, I see the bravest woman I've ever met. I see someone who faced difficulties that would have broken many people, and yet maintained her humanity, her capacity to love. But I deceived you, and then you told me the truth when it would have been much easier to keep lying. That's character, Marina. True character isn't never making mistakes. It's doing the right thing, even when it's hard." Marina let the tears fall freely. "What if I'm not enough? What if you're more than enough? What if we're simply good together?" Raphael ran his thumbs over her cheeks, wiping away her tears. "Can I promise you something? I'll be here, on good days and bad days. When you doubt yourself and when you're on top of the world, I'll be here, because I choose to be. Every day, I choose you." And at that moment, sitting in the simple kitchen they had decorated together, With her hands held in his, Marina finally allowed herself to believe she deserved love, that she deserved happiness, that she deserved Raphael. But fate, it seemed, still had one last surprise in store for them. 3 months later, when Marina was fully settled into her new life, she received an unexpected call. It was from a number she didn't recognize, with the York area code. "Hello? Marina? It's Isabel, from St. Mary's Hospital." Marina's heart pounded. "My mother. Has something happened to my mother?" No. In fact, your mother is doing great. The most recent tests show she's completely cured. That's why I'm calling. She asked me to let you know she's coming home. And she said she'd really like to see you. And to meet this Raphael you talk so much about." Marina hung up the phone in shock. Her mother, cured, coming home, wanting to meet Raphael. When she told him, Raphael wrapped her in a tight hug. "Then let's go to Yorkshire. I want to meet the woman who raised someone so incredible." And for the first time in a long time, Marina looked to the future, not with fear, but with hope. The journey to rural Yorkshire took 6 hours. Marina and Raphael left London early, the car cutting through roads that gradually exchanged urban concrete for landscapes of farms, green mountains, and endless skies. Marina was nervous, her fingers tapping on her knee throughout the trip. "She's going to love you," Raphael said for the 3rd time, holding her hand as he drove. "You don't know my mother. She's protective, especially after everything I've been through." Marina looked out the window, seeing the simple houses of her hometown begin to appear, and she has every right to be. "I left full of dreams and came back broken more times than I can count." Raphael slowed down as they entered the town. It was small, one of those where everyone knows everyone. Colorful houses, centuries-old churches, a central square with a bandstand. The kind of place that seemed frozen in time, oblivious to the chaos of the metropolis they had left behind. Mrs. Teresa's house was at the end of a quiet street, a simple but well-maintained building with a front garden full of blue hydrangeas. Before Marina even opened the gate, the door flew open and a short woman with gray hair and eyes identical to Marina's appeared. "My daughter!" Mrs. Teresa practically flew down the porch steps. Marina met her halfway, hugging her hard enough to knock the air out of both their lungs. "Let me see you. You're thinner, but you're well. Thank goodness you're well. Mum, you're the one who was sick. I should be asking how you are." Marina held her mother's face in her hands, examining every wrinkle, every white hair. But her eyes were bright, her skin had color, and there was a vitality there that hadn't existed months ago. Mrs. Teresa laughed. "I'm great, daughter. Better than in years. The doctors said it was a miracle. But I know it was pure stubbornness. I wasn't going to leave this life without seeing you happy." Her eyes finally landed on Raphael, who had remained respectfully near the car. "And this must be the famous Raphael." Raphael walked towards them, extending his hand. "Mrs. Teresa, it's a pleasure to meet you." Mrs. Teresa looked at his extended hand and then pulled Raphael into a hug. "No formalities here, young man. Anyone who makes my daughter smile the way she smiled when she talked about you on the phone is family." Lunch was served in the small kitchen Marina knew so well. Chicken with okra, polenta, sautéed collard greens. Simple food, but made with a love that no Michelin-starred restaurant could reproduce. Raphael ate 2 servings, praising each dish with genuine sincerity that made Mrs. Teresa blush with pleasure. "So, Raphael," Mrs. Teresa said as she served coffee after the meal, "Marina told me how you met. The short version, at least. But I want to hear from you. What did you see in my daughter that made you give her a chance, considering the circumstances?" Marina felt her face flush. "Mum!" "No, it's all right." Raphael smiled. "It's a fair question." He turned to Mrs. Teresa, and there was a seriousness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. "I saw someone who was struggling but hadn't given up. I saw intelligence, humor, and a brutal honesty, even when that honesty hurt her. I saw the woman I would like to become in courage. Mrs. Teresa studied Raphael for a long moment and then nodded, satisfied. My daughter was always stubborn. When she was 5, she insisted she wanted to be an artist. Everyone said it was a childish thing, that it would pass. But she never gave up. She saved every penny, studied alone when she had no money for courses, fought to get into university. She took Marina's hand. She deserves someone who sees that, who sees the struggle and not just the result. I see it, Raphael assured her, and I admire it more every day. After lunch, Mrs. Teresa practically kicked them out of the kitchen. Go for a walk. Show this young man from London the town. I need to rest a bit, and you two need some time alone. Marina took Raphael to see the places of her childhood, the school where she had studied, now renovated but still recognizable, the small library where she had spent entire afternoons reading, the square where she had had her first kiss, at 14, with a boy who was now married with 3 children. They ended up sitting on the bandstand, observing the town's movement. Some people looked with curiosity at the foreign car parked in the square, at the man clearly from out of town next to the Olsen girl who had gone to try her luck in the big city. It's so different from London, Raphael commented. Slower, more peaceful. Sometimes I miss that, Marina admitted. The simplicity, knowing everyone by name, being able to walk at night without fear. Do you think about coming back? Marina looked at him, surprised by the question. No, my life is in London now. My work, my friends. She paused. You. Raphael smiled, but there was something thoughtful in his expression. What if I told you I'm thinking of opening a hotel here? Here, in Yorkshire? Why not? Rural tourism is growing. People are tired of big cities, looking for refuge in authentic places. Your town has potential, history, natural beauty, that peace that can no longer be found in metropolises. He turned to face her completely. And it has you, or it could if you wanted. Marina felt her heart quicken. Raphael, what are you saying? I'm saying that I've spent the last few months thinking about what really matters. And it's not the fancy restaurants or the social events. It's being with people I love, doing work that matters. I can manage the other hotels remotely. I can invest here, create jobs, make a difference. He took her hands, but only if that's what you want. I'm not asking you to give up your life in London. I'm offering the possibility of building something new, together. Marina looked around the square, seeing her town with new eyes. She thought of her mother, alone in that big house. She thought of the opportunities a boutique hotel could bring to the local economy. She thought of what it would be like to wake up every day and be able to visit her mother without a 6-hour drive. What about my work? She asked, ever practical. Remote work. Or you could open your own studio. There are businesses here that need design. Farms that want to modernize their brands. Guest houses that need visual identity. You could make as much difference here as you do in London. Maybe more. Marina closed her eyes, letting the possibility settle. It wasn't what she had planned. It wasn't the dream she had pursued when she left this town years ago. But perhaps the best plans were the ones you didn't make, the ones that simply happened when you allowed yourself to be happy. Not now, she said finally. Not yet. But maybe in the future, when we're sure, when this is about us, not about running away from London or coming home. When it's a conscious choice, not a reaction. Raphael nodded, and there was pride in his eyes. That sounds perfect to me. No rush, just possibilities. They returned to Mrs. Teresa's house as the sun began to set. They found her on the porch, gently rocking in a rocking chair, knitting in her hands. Decided your future yet? She asked without looking up, a smile playing on her lips. Mom, were you listening? Marina asked, feigning indignation. Small town, daughter, walls have ears, and Mrs. Mary, who lives next to the square, has called me 3 times, telling me you and your handsome boyfriend were having a serious conversation in the bandstand. Mrs. Teresa finally looked up, and her eyes were moist. I just want you to be happy, Marina. However you choose. Wherever you choose. Marina sat at her mother's feet, resting her head on her knee as she had as a child. I think I'm happy, Mum. Scared, but happy. That's how it should be. Mrs. Teresa ran her fingers through her daughter's hair. If it doesn't scare you a little, it's not big enough to be worth it. They stayed in Yorkshire for 3 days. Raphael met all the neighbors, tasted all the treats the ladies on the street insisted on bringing, and walked every corner of the small town that had shaped the woman he loved. On the morning of their departure, Mrs. Teresa hugged Marina for a long time. You've grown so much, my daughter. Not in height, she laughed, but in here, in what matters, and I'm so proud of the woman you've become. Mum, you're the one who taught me never to give up. No, dear, I gave you the tools, but it was you who chose to use them. It was you who got up every time you fell. It was you who had the courage to tell the truth, even when it was easier to lie. Mrs. Teresa looked at Raphael. Take care of her, not because she needs it, but because she deserves it. Every day, Raphael promised. The drive back was quieter than the journey there, but it was a comfortable silence. Marina looked out the window, watching the landscape change again, but this time she didn't feel like she was leaving something behind. She was carrying it with her, her mother's love, childhood memories, the possibility of a future that could be built anywhere, as long as it was with the right people. When they arrived in London, the city seemed different. It was still chaotic, still noisy, but now it was also home. Not because it was perfect, but because it was where Marina had chosen to be. Where she had found not only Raphael, but herself. 6 months later, Marina was in her office, a small room Raphael had helped her set up in one corner of her apartment. The walls were covered with sketches, color palettes, design references. She had just closed a contract with her 6th freelance client, in addition to her full-time job at the company. Her phone rang. It was Camilla. Marina looked at the name on the screen for a long moment, remembering the last time they had spoken. The anger, the hurt, the betrayal. Part of her wanted to ignore it. But another part, the part that had learned about forgiveness and second chances, decided to answer. Hello? Marina. Camilla's voice was different, smaller, more humble. I know I have no right to call. And I understand if you hang up, but I need to say something. Marina waited. I was wrong. About everything. About you. About Raphael. About what I did. I started therapy after everything that happened. I'm working on myself, understanding why I did what I did. And I'm not calling to ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that you were right. About character. About dignity. About what really matters. Camilla, Marina began, but didn't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. And that, in a strange and crooked way, you taught me something important. That material wealth means nothing without spiritual wealth. There was a pause. Be happy, Marina. You deserve it. The call ended. Marina held the phone, processing the conversation. It didn't erase what had happened. It didn't completely heal the wounds. But it was a start. A recognition that people could change, could grow. She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city that stretched as far as the eye could see. Her reflection in the glass showed a different woman from the one who had accepted 2,500 pounds months ago. Stronger, more confident, more at peace with herself. The door opened and Raphael entered, 2 cups of coffee in his hands. Am I interrupting? Marina smiled. Never. You never interrupt. He handed her a cup and stood beside her at the window. What are you thinking about? How strange life is. How sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead to the best. How a moment of desperation can be the beginning of something incredible. Raphael put his arm around her. Regretting anything? Marina thought about the question. Regretting having accepted Camilla's money? Yes. Regretting having initially lied to Raphael? Yes. But regretting the path that led her to that moment, in that apartment, with that man. No, she said finally. Not at all. By the way, Raphael said, with a casual tone that immediately put Marina on alert. Remember that hotel in Yorkshire I mentioned? Yes? I closed the purchase of a plot of land today. Nothing definite yet, but things are moving, and I was thinking, maybe you'd want to help with the design, the visual identity, the room decor, everything. It would be a complete partnership. Marina turned to face him, her eyes wide. Raphael, that's huge. A project of that size. I know, and I don't know anyone better to do it. Someone who knows that town, who understands what it means to welcome people, to offer refuge. Someone who has lived on both ends of the spectrum and can create something authentic. He took her hands. But no pressure. If you don't want to, we'll find someone else. This isn't about business. It's about building something together, if that's what you want. Marina felt tears form, not from sadness, but from pure joy. A year ago, she was sitting on the floor of a cold apartment, looking at an eviction. Notice, hopeless and futureless. Now she was being invited to co-create a dream project by a man who loved her not despite her flaws, but with them. Yes, she said, her voice choked. 1,000 times yes. Raphael pulled her into a tight hug, and they stayed like that for a long time. Two survivors of their own battles, now allies in building something new. That night, lying in bed, Marina looked at the ceiling, reflecting on the journey. Raphael slept beside her, his breathing soft and regular. She picked up her phone and opened her notes, beginning to write. Dear diary, I never kept until now. I've learned something important these last few months. That value is not measured in money. It's measured in moments of brutal honesty, in the courage to tell the truth when it's easier to lie, in choosing to do the right thing even when it's hard. I've learned that masks, whether of forced humility or artificial luxury, only hide who we truly are, and that only when we take off those masks, when we allow ourselves to be seen in all our imperfection, do we find real connections. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in my life, I'm not afraid to find out. Because whatever it is, I will face it being exactly who I am. And that, I've learned, is the only kind of wealth that truly matters. Marina saved the note and put her phone aside. She snuggled against Raphael, who instinctively pulled her closer even in his sleep. And for the first time in a long time, Marina Olsen slept deeply, without fear, without guilt, just at peace with the woman she had become and excited about the woman she would still become. End of story. If Marina's journey touched your heart, you're not alone. Sometimes our hardest stories lead us exactly where we need to be. Here we share narratives about new beginnings, second chances, and the courage to choose truth even when it hurts. If you want more stories that celebrate the strength of the human spirit and the beauty of authentic connections, subscribe to the channel. Leave a like if Marina and Raphael's story resonated with you, and in the comments, tell us, have you ever had to make a difficult choice between what you needed and what was right? Your experiences matter and can inspire others who are going through similar journeys. See you in the next story.